One of the most important tasks that you accomplish whenever you're writing an essay or conducting a research project is to narrow the focus or narrow the scope of your topic so that you will not be speaking in such general terms about your topic. So I like to think of topics as fitting into two different size boxes, refrigerator boxes or shoe boxes. Refrigerator boxes are big, right? You can fit a whole person inside a refrigerator box. These would be broad topics that create opportunities for preliminary investigation. So let's say you're really interested in international soccer. That's a refrigerator size box because there are many, many teams. There are many controversial issues related to international professional soccer. There are lots of questions that you could explore. So that's a huge topic. And unless you're planning to write a whole book on international soccer, that topic is too big for a 5 to 6 page essay or even a 10-page research essay. But the refrigerator box topics allow us to make a list of questions so that we can understand what it is we're most interested in. And the refrigerator box topics, those topics allow us to explore several different options before we really commit ourselves to the narrow focus. Now, shoebox size topics are much smaller. They have a much narrower scope, just like a shoebox is a smaller container. You can put your foot inside a shoebox, but not your whole body. So shoebox size topics, these are focused subjects that really limit the scope of your research and discussion. And a shoebox size topic is necessary when you either have limited time or limited space in which to complete your project. So maybe you can only write 5 pages, or maybe you can only write 3, or maybe you can only write 10, or maybe you only have 2 weeks to investigate your topic and then write your analysis. Shoebox size topics also create the opportunity for much stronger arguments, for more persuasive analyses, and for the presentation of more precise evidence. The narrower your topic, the easier it will be to make a persuasive argument because you can argue smaller, finer points rather than trying to persuade your audience to accept broad generalizations, which are usually easier to refute. So here are some examples of a refrigerator box topic. College students' finances. That's a huge topic because there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of college students across the United States. They have many different kinds of financial resources and lots of different types of expenses. They respond to those expenses in many different ways. So I could take that large topic and apply some questions to help narrow my focus and figure out where my real interest is. So one question to narrow my focus might be, to what financial resources do students often have access? So in other words, what kind of money do college students actually have? Do they have savings accounts? Do any of them have investments accounts? Do they just have checking accounts? Do they have a lot of money in those accounts or really small accounts? Another question might be, how much work experience do students have before they come to college? That's related to their finances. How do they earn their money? Do they do this through odd jobs? Are they employed? Do they get an allowance from their parents? Those kinds of things. Some other questions that could help us narrow our focus would be these. How do college students often use the money they earn? So maybe I'm really interested in how college students spend money. What do they purchase? Or how do they use their resources to support whatever lifestyle they choose or to meet their obligations? How do college students tend to use their money? How do students define wealth or prosperity? Maybe what I'm really interested in is understanding a more philosophical topic, which is students' definition of prosperity or wealth. How would they define success and living the good life? Another approach might be to ask, what financial goals do students have for themselves while they are in college? Maybe I want to understand what it is students are trying to accomplish by working or by saving money or by asking for support from their parents. Another way to narrow the focus would be to focus on debt. Maybe I'm really curious about what kind of debt college students have. Do they tend to have credit card debt? Do they have car loans? Do they have other types of loans, like student loans? Maybe I'm more interested in the emotional side of money management. And so I might ask, what anxieties do college students often have about income or money management? Maybe I just want to focus on how they feel about money and what causes them either confidence or stress. Or I might really be interested in understanding what college students have learned about how to manage money or how to save effectively or how to invest their resources. And so I might spend more time exploring what personal financial planning classes they take in college or what they might have had in high school or what they learned from their parents. I could go any of those directions, but if I'm writing a 5 to 6 page essay for a composition class, there's no way that I can address all of these questions in one essay. So I need to narrow the focus to just one of these smaller topics. So here are some examples of the shoebox topics that I might use for a 5 to 6 page research essay. So I might focus just on Anderson University students and focus exclusively on their recreational spending habits. I'm not going to talk about their car loans or their college loans or their rent. I'm going to focus on what they do with the extra money they have to support their entertainment activities. Or maybe I decide I'm going to focus exclusively on the credit card debt that college seniors tend to have. I'm going to focus on a specific population of college students, not just Anderson University students, but all college seniors. And I'm just going to focus on their credit card debt. A third option would be to focus only on those expenses for which college students tend to take responsibility. So maybe college students are using student loans to pay for their college education. So they haven't taken responsibility for that yet because they're not paying off those loans. In a sense, either the federal government or a bank is paying for their college expenses right now. Or maybe their parents are helping to cover their tuition, room and board, or helping them pay rent in an apartment they live in off campus. So I'm just going to focus on those specific expenses for which college students are responsible. So for example, they might have to pay for their cell phone, or maybe college students have to pay for their car insurance or all of their gas. Or maybe they're using money from somebody else to pay tuition, but they have to pay for all of their books. That would be a way to narrow my focus. A fourth option might be to focus my essay on students' work habits. So maybe I just want to try to understand how many hours a week Anderson University students tend to work. And I could narrow my focus even further by just talking about on-campus jobs or just talking about off-campus jobs to understand how Anderson University students are using some of their time for work. So it's really important to narrow the focus. Once you've done that, you can do several things to develop that narrowed topic so you know what kinds of things you're going to discuss in the essay. So one thing to consider is strong points of disagreement among everyone who's concerned about this topic. Disagreement energizes a conversation. People actually enjoy talking with other people who see things differently than they do and who disagree with their ideas. Disagreement is a natural part of conversation about complex issues. Anything that it is at all complicated is very likely to be controversial because we all see things in a certain way. Research allows us to understand the complexity of any topic, even if it's a very narrow one, and understand opposing viewpoints. If we can understand our opposition, then we're also very likely to understand and develop our own point of view and be able to present it in a more respectful way. So here's another example of a refrigerator box topic and then how I've narrowed it. So a refrigerator box topic might be educational debt incurred by American college students. That's a big topic because it applies to so many people, And there are so many different kinds and levels of educational debt. So the way to narrow that focus might be, one option would be to focus just on how AU students actually use their student loan resources. By focusing on AU students rather than all college students, I've narrowed the focus. And by narrowing it even further and focusing on how they actually use the student loans for which they are approved, it gives me a chance to focus on something narrow rather than something broad. Another shoebox topic might be to focus on the cost and the value of dual credit courses that many students take in high school before enrolling in college. So my research question might be this: is this approach, in other words, paying for dual credit college courses in high school, helping students to reduce the amount of time they have to spend in college and therefore making the total cost of a college education less expensive than it would be if they just took all of their classes when they enrolled full-time at a college or university? So I have given you some examples and I've explained why it's important to narrow your focus if you're writing an essay for any class, not just your English composition courses. A narrowly focused topic is easier to research because it's easier to generate research questions, and it is easier to analyze than a broadly generalized topic. You should always try to choose topics that appeal to your own interest so that you'll be genuinely curious about that, and so you'll be more confident in your analysis. If you're really interested in a topic, chances are you already know some things about it, and so you're adding to your existing knowledge rather than just starting from scratch. So you should think, what are the general topics that interest you? Once you've identified some of those topics, how can you narrow them into smaller categories, smaller subject matters, so that you can do a detailed, in-depth analysis in a short research essay?